Welcome, Devin, to Metallarium Pages. For me, it's a great honor, a pleasure to talk with you about you, your projects, and this new album. For that, how have you been during these uncertain times? First, we have a pandemic years ago. Now we think we are ending this pandemic. Who knows? But the curious thing is now we start a war in Europe. So most a very uncertain things. So who knows what happened next couple of years? Alien invasion, zombie apocalypse, the rise of the machines. Who knows?
I was in Tel Aviv a couple of years ago in Israel, and beside the hotel, I was walking around. There was a market, and it was tons of food and alcohol and people smoking marijuana, and everybody was happy, and there was music. And I said to them, I said, how come this seems like such a joyful thing? And they're like, well, because at any moment we think it could be over. And I remember that because it's almost like we're all going to die anyway. Like at some point we're all going to die. Yeah. And during the time that I have left, I would rather enjoy it than worry about things that I have no control over. And then when things happen that I have to deal with, like a pandemic, for example, of course I have to deal with it, like family and people being, committing suicide around me and trying to go to the store and find food. I mean, I have to deal with it. But even within that, it's the same sort of principle. It's like, okay, how do I react to this? Can I spend all this energy being angry and afraid? And there's certainly, but certain points, like a choice that I feel made, like, okay, you can stop now. Don't have to take that fear into the stress, like make it more difficult for myself. So during the course of the pandemic and everything that happened, I'm just trying to, really love making music. I like spending time with my family. It rained yesterday. I love that. And that's as far as I think I need to, because anything other than that, energy, I can use that elsewhere.
Okay. Well, talking about this new album, Lightwork, I'm really surprised about the new way that you did on this new album compared to Empath, because you are more passive and slow, and I hear influence from a David Bowie and a progressive rock from the 70s and 80s. So for that, why do you decide to take this road? Do you think this new road will shock the fans? Because it's normally the shock. Oh, you say, hey, well, this is not Empath, this other kind of music.
Well, Empath all wasn't transcendent, and also wasn't strapping, and strapping was an ocean machine. It's like, it's funny because I get asked about the work that I did during the pandemic, like it was a choice. Like, why did you choose to take this road? I didn't choose this road. None of us did. All I can do is react to it in the way that's most honest for me. And that was the most honest reaction. I don't know you. I didn't have the fucking energy to be more than that. I came out of that and I'm listening to a bunch of my peer groups, and it's so angry. And fuck. And dude, I had enough stress. What I needed to write during that, something that was more chill and react like it wasn't a choice. I didn't write it because I was privileged position being separate from the pandemic. I was in it, just like you, just like everybody. The war, I'm not in it, not in the Ukraine or Russia, but of course we deal with it, deal with all the devices. And the only thing that I can to the table is, like, I'm not writing from the point of view of you else. And so what I say to the audience is, well, angry in reaction to the pandemic. There's 40 bands that have just released a record that will suit your needs. But all I can do is bring to the table who I am. And that's just not how I reacted. Am I smart enough to know why I didn't react that way? Nope. I just didn't react that way. And so I had to write from the place of honesty. And it's funny because people say, oh, in the future, you know, you're going to be going, you're going to continue this. I don't know if I'm going to continue this. I have no idea. I didn't know that Lightwork was going to happen. I didn't know the puzzle was going to happen. I didn't know strapping was going to happen. I never know. And the only thing that I can do, the only thing I can offer as a musician is just honesty, man. And that's honestly how I reacted.
Mm. Okay, okay. So talking about what this is, when I saw that you release two albums among as to Empath and Lightwork, Snuggles and the Puzzle. So do you think these albums influence the new album? Because it seems it seems the same way. And I remember you too, your two ambient albums under your own name years ago. So and why do you decide to release both albums by Heavy Devil Records and not through Inside Out Music?
Because Inside Out didn't want to release it. And I wish I was smart enough to answer that question, like why I did it. It's like the question, why did I make a certain album, is flattering to me because it makes me feel like whoever's asking it thinks that I know. I don't know. I have no idea. I have no fucking idea. And I think that's why I enjoy the process so much. A lot of the work that I do prior to it coming out, I don't think to myself, this is a great way to screw up the audience. I can't wait. It's not that at all. I wish that what came naturally to me, which is the only thing that's important creatively, was something that was like, you know, like AC/DC, where it's like, you know, it's like AC/DC, 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 singer dies, more AC/DC, AC/DC, AC/DC. I love it. I love AC/DC. It's great, but I can't do that. And I wish I was smart enough to tell you why, but I'm not. All I know is that music happens for me without me thinking about it. And when I think about it, I screw it up. So I just don't think about it. And if you and I were sitting around a table prior to the pandemic and we said to each other, what sort of music do you think would come out of you if you were presented with this awful scenario? And then war, what sort of music would come out of you? I think I could be forgiven for thinking, oh, it would be really aggressive. But that's not what happened, and I don't know why.
Okay. So, well, returning to this new album, another that I saw on this Lightwork is the album has 2 CDs and 1 Blu-ray. But the aspect more striking in that the second CD is called Nightwork. The second call. So as you said in the info, that stage on your life post-pandemic and his reflection or your reflections or what you do or what many feel about this pandemic. So
sure.
Can we say that both albums are very related to this pandemic, or did you think when artists feels, it's a common thing inside this one of aspects, and do you think when an artist feels problems outside, the war in general, the music always be slow and sensible? Because this is not the first time that I hear this.
No, I just think that you have to, 2 things spring to mind. First, artists are just people, right? Like I think it's so unhealthy to view artists like gods. I think it's really 80s mentality. And the thing that allows people to do the things that they do are, you know, so many different things: your bias, your background, your past, your parents, your health, your finances. It's like anybody, right? I can't speak for other musicians, but I can speak for myself, and everything that I do is affected by my life. Everything. I don't sit down, and I know some other musicians where they sit down and when they're writing songs, they're like, oh, you know what's a current cool thing that people are talking about? You know, Black Lives Matter or gun control or politics or the pandemic. And they write music like they're making a story. You know, it's like one day Jimmy woke up and he wanted to buy a gun, and then the story, and they're just like, okay, what's the chorus and what rhymes with gun and all. Dude, fuck that, dude. I don't think like that at all. I wake up and I'm like, I feel like shit. Here's a song about feeling like shit. I'm afraid. Here's a song about being afraid. I lost my best friend to suicide. Here's a song about that. And the reason why I do that is because music is it's like it's how I cope. It's what I do. It's the same thing as having a conversation with people. It's what I do. Maybe the reason why some people are confused by what I do, or maybe the reason why I've never reached a certain level of success, is because that seems to be odd. Maybe that's not a normal thing. Maybe a lot of the music that becomes popular is a group of songwriters sitting around and writing stories and making sure that the lyrics they're catchy and the choruses are catchy. It's not what I do, man. And so all I can do is say that what I do, here's another version of it.
Okay. Great to know at this point. So now the music industry was really affected by the pandemic, with tours, festivals, and many shows in general canceled 2 years ago, and I think a little more too. So now the situation looks better. As an experienced musician, how do you see the situation at this point in 2022?
It's gotten way worse. I don't think it's better at all, actually, because the costs of touring now, with inflation and the cost of gasoline and diesel, plus over the course of the pandemic, we lost a ton of really good venues. I'd say probably 50% of the workforce in touring has now left, because what's a guitar tech going to do for 2 years? They have to get a job, right? And so the ones that are remaining, not only are they already spoken for with other bands, but they're almost twice as expensive. So I saw this thing about Live Nation the other day. They're taking 30% of merch sales from some of these venues. The costs of airlines have gone up. So artists, the ability to make money on tour is almost completely gone now, for at least an artist on my level. So yes, it's opened up again, but it's 10 times as expensive. So, it's like, what do you do? Even little things like, okay, so the hotels are more expensive. The food at the hotels are more expensive. So at the end of it, you're touring for what, right? Like, you're touring ultimately so you can present your work to the people who care about your work. And that's worth it to me. But I think for anybody to think that it's now easy again you should investigate that, because I'm trying to set up tours for next year, and there's no way to keep them within cost. There's no way. And so you go out there and I'm like, well, we can't have this vehicle, we can't have this backline, we can't have this production, we can't have these lights. And then if you show up at a place and the audience comes, they're like, dude, the show's not good. There's no lights, there's no production. There's so what should you do? And I think a lot of musicians, their decision is like, well, I'll just stay home then, and I'll just create from home. I try to go out with acoustic now, because that way I can afford it. If I just show up with an acoustic guitar and sing for people, it's better than nothing, but it's still like, man, it's a complicated time, brother.
Yes, I hear this aspect from Christopher Johnson from Ethereum. He told me last week that there has a lot of troubles now in Europe, touring with the buses, a lot of expensive tourists, a lot of. And he told me that preferred, as you said, he told me that he prefer to stay at home, be creative, and create more music. That's the only way.
Same, but I have committed to 4 tours next year too. So, the hope is that by doing it, people recognize the effort, because it's not like Motley Crue in the 80s where, 3 tour buses and a semi truck and millions of dollars and women and all that sort of stuff. It's like, I think for prog metal, none of those things exist.
Yes. So, well, I know you won't play the extreme metal again at this point of your career, no? And probably people remember you from the first albums, or all entirely discovered from Strapping Young Lad, no? In most interviews. So, but
yeah.
Have you ever thought about re-recording some old songs with the style and arrangements that you use now for your own projects, or perhaps maybe with the unreleased songs that from era, no?
Nah. I
Okay.
mean, I mean, I get asked the question a lot, and it means a lot to me that people like what I used to do. It's awesome. That's not what I do anymore. And I'm 50 now, and I don't have to do it because who would I be doing it for? You know, I think if there's anything that has happened during the pandemic is the recognition that you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your mental health. You have to take care of your body. You have to take care of your family. And I think a lot of what happens is people get so tied to the attention from the job that they think that, you know, if they stop doing it, the world would end. It's like, no one gives a shit, dude. Like, it's like if I die, if you die, people close to us will be upset for a while, but then they move on. It's like, and I think that it's really easy to be trained into thinking that our importance is such that we need to be martyrs for people. But no, no. So for me, I take care of myself so that what I can represent is honest. And if that means that people from the past don't like what I do, I feel no ill will. And I'm very appreciative and respectful of the time that we spent together. But if they don't like what I do, they just don't listen to it. Don't listen to it. You know, it's like I was mowing the lawn the other day and I listened to the new Lamb of God record, and it's super pissed off, super aggressive, really cool. And I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? It's like, and it seems like a lot of it comes down to having to explain yourself to people. But the explanation is really simple. It's like, I don't want to do it. And I don't have to. And I'm 50. And that's not where I'm at. When I sit down to write music, man, I write things that are where I'm at now. And I would argue that anybody who likes music that I did when I was younger would probably do well to recognize that the way that I wrote music back then is the way that I write music now. It's just who I was when I was 25 is a lot different than who I am when I'm 50, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, let's talk about other things.
Oh, go.
Okay,
Yeah.
no. Finish the you said.
I'd be surprised if people who are 50 are the same as they were when they were 25. And if they are, there's a good chance I would not have a lot to talk about with them.
Well, for me, I love strapping a lot. I love
So do I.
I love
So do I,
Devin
dude.
Towsend projects. For me, it's
Me
not
too.
necessary. It's necessary to come back to old days. No? I'm always
No,
be
good.
in to hear new music all the time.
But even if it was, brother, even if it was, I mean, you would just as an adult, you just would stop listening. Right? Yeah. If you don't like it, you just don't listen. It seems like, you know, if your property had a well and you relied on that well for water, and then you ran out of water, the well is dry. Like, you wouldn't stand in front of the well and start screaming at it about not having water in it. You'd just be like, there's no water in it. All right, what do we do next? But it's like, it's like somebody standing in front of a well going, I want more fucking water. I want more fucking water. And it's like, yeah, but it's empty. But it's empty.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. So let's talk about other things now.
Sure.
For this, how do you choose the cover art for your albums? I'm curious about this because in the recent years, people are having access to artificial intelligence, where you write down a detailed description of what you have in mind and the artificial intelligence will create an image for you. So do you think this will have an impact in the music industry? Like bands using it for the artwork in their albums, or maybe for the making music, because now it's a lot of bad machines, etc.
Yeah, totally, dude. I think that, in fact, we're going to see artificial intelligence music, and it's going to be amazing. So with that in mind, as a human being with a family that has as his income music, what do you do? Am I going to be afraid of that? No. What do? I have to figure out what it is about being a human that's different. So artificial intelligence will make incredible music, but it isn't human music. It's machine. And that doesn't mean it's bad. There's going to be some of it that will be incredible. And if you try to compete with a machine as a human, you're lost. You're doomed, right? You can't. But in the same way, like a machine can't compete with a human for being human. And in order to really sink into what it means to be human, you have to accept the things about you that may not be that wonderful. You know, that you're not perfect, that you do change, that you do get older, and your body does start to disintegrate. Like all these things are what it means to be human. And so the best thing that a human musician can do is learn about who they are and then be accurate with that. Because I bet you there's going to be brutal metal. Have you seen Relentless Doppelganger? It's this artificial intelligence that plays a constant stream of tech death based on an algorithm from Archspire, you know, the band Archspire,
Yeah.
right? So if you look up online, Relentless Doppelganger, it's been going on for 3 years, I believe, 24 hours a day, constant technical death metal made by a computer, right?
Yeah.
And it just keeps growing and learning, and it's like, it's incredible. But I think that, again, my work is about figuring out who I am and being honest with that. And if that means that things go in a direction that is more human and less perfect, then I think that will really serve me. Do I want to have artificial intelligence artwork? I think it would be beautiful, but I think it's not what I'm about. It's not what I'm looking for. My buddy and I, we do the artwork together, and it makes a lot more sense. It's a lot more human.
Yeah. So into respect the artificial intelligence, what do you think about the, well, now especially the drummers now have this kind of madness that as you can see in YouTube, there is a lot of drummer players want to play like a machine. It's a curious thing, the drummers, because you played with Gene Hoglan. Gene Hoglan is a lot of technician into the methods, etc. But at the same time, in Empath, you play with the Sam from the Cryptid Beard. And Sam from the Cryptid Beard is like a machine, and their instructor or in the drum plays it's like a machine. So how do you see now the people wants to play like a machine, and the artificial intelligence wants to play like the human? I think.
Yeah, maybe we'll come together. I mean, probably like you. When I watch a technical death metal drummer play incredibly precisely, it's satisfying. But the drummers that I prefer now are a lot more real, like Morgan, who I play with, Morgan Ogren. He just sounds like yeah, he just sounds like a human, right? And I really like that. I really like hearing people. I really like talking to actual people. Like I remember maybe mid-90s when the drummers and bands were trying to be more and more precise. It was appealing because we didn't have perfect, you know, AI-driven technical music, right? But eventually you can have a drummer that has spent his entire life being perfect, like 64th note and the blast and everything. But if a computer was to do the same thing, it would be better. So you have to figure out what your intention is. If your intention is to be perfect, you can't compete with a machine. But if your intention is to be human, the machine can't compete with you.
Yeah.
But I mean, what that means, though, is you have to accept what it means to be human. And my feeling is what it means to be human is to be a mess.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, I understood very well.
Because it's like we look at what happens with war and all this stuff, and it's not because we're perfect. It's because we're terrified and we're arrogant and we're ignorant and we're racist and we're fucking sexist and like all these, and we want power and we want sex and we're attached to like Christmas or religion or whatever, right? It's like that's why things are fucked up. If you had if you had a species that was completely logical, insects or computers, none of that shit would exist. You know, world would probably be beautiful in a lot of ways. However, one of the biggest hangups for me is having to accept the fact that the things about being human that I need to accept about myself are also awful. It is that, you know, like sex and food and aggression and fear and all these things. It's like I have to accept this within me. And that's less romantic than thinking that, you know, I'm perfect. Right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, talking about other aspects again. So one day I read in Decibel magazine, and I think, well, I think it was Metal Hammer. I don't know, remember, I don't remember very well. But that the next big bands who fill full stadiums will be you, Mastodon, and Gojira. Is talking about extreme or metal in general, rock scene. So what do you
Gojira.
think of this? What do you think of this idea of people who analyze the music for reviews, interviews, that they think like this? So, and do you consider that your music can currently fill stadiums like Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden?
No, fuck no. Fuck no, man. Me? No way. Gojira, yeah, I think. I don't know about melodically or emotionally, but like they fill a stadium well, they write for it. I don't think Mastodon. Um, who knows, dude? And how do I feel about the people who write it? They need to eat just like me. They have a job. You got to write about something, you know? It's like I often think it's funny because throughout my career, people would say like, "Oh, he's an extreme metal musician." No, he's a prog. Now he's pop, or like I don't think I'm any of that. I just write, and people say, "Oh, you're going to be the next one to fill stadiums." Like, dude, I'm 50 years old. I got fucked up teeth. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like, you know, the one that all those young girls are into is that old dude that plays weird prog metal. That's exactly what's going to happen. No, I don't think so. I think that for me, somewhere along the line, I stopped thinking about that, and it really helped me. So, but I don't think it's bad for people to have that as part of their writing, because yeah, man, my job's to make music, their job's to write. Like,
Yeah.
I got 2 more minutes and then I gotta go.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, well, and now talking about the talking about how do you see now the rock and metal scene nowadays? I mean, there are a lot of bands out there and are keeping the flame, the rock and metal alive. But at the same time, we can see bands like Def Leppard, Deep Purple, well, the classic ones, are releasing new albums in general. So, do you still have
Yeah,
time to listen new bands, or do you prefer the classic ones to inspire you?
both. Most of the time is when I mow the lawn, you know, like I put on my headphones when I'm mowing the lawn, and then I listen to things that I don't usually have time to listen to. My listening habits are usually pretty quiet. Like I like chill music. But anytime I listen to metal, it's when I'm mowing the lawn. That's basically the only time. And a lot of that's just because they're friends of mine. A lot of times I'm just trying to keep up with what everybody's new record sounds like. Sometimes I listen to, when I exercise, I'll listen to Judas Priest or Iron Maiden or something, because it reminds me of being 13 years old again. And I like it. You know, it's nostalgic to listen to Power Slave or Defenders of the Faith or something. But man, normal life, you know, I got kids and job and everything so fucking crazy that sometimes when I listen to things from my past, I'm just like, ugh, no, man, I've been there. I gotta be where I'm at now. But you know, but I'm also different than some people, right? Some people, I got a buddy, a good friend of mine, smart fucking guy, and all he does is listen to music from the 80s, like music from when he was a kid. He's got sleeve tattoos, and all he wants to do is listen to Manowar and fucking Kiss. And I get it. He's a brilliant guy, and he's an awesome person in my life. But it's not me, right? It's like I don't find that to be relaxing unless I've had lots of alcohol. At that point, it's the only thing you want to listen to, right? But